All right, everyone, how are you doing? This is going to be for the wonderful month of July, of course. July is the month that we're doing this for sure. And how are you doing, Uberclay?
Man, I'm doing great, and I'm so happy to be here. I thank you for having me, and I look forward to discussing some of these betas and releases today for the month of July.
Yep, and I'm also just as happy to bring up our wonderful channel sponsors, Intrusive Shirts, and also Aho Works. Wonderful patches and wonderful shirts. Use coupon code /AGCast for both of them to get a nice discount code for whatever your order is. All right, let's go on to the betas now.
Right on. Okay, so for July, we just had one new beta launch. The new beta that launched is the Dakka V2. That's one of my designs. That is a M&P 45 full-sized frame, printable. The Dakka V1 was, it was great, but it wasn't very ergonomic, and so this gives us the opportunity. What I did is I revamped that frame pretty substantially and gave it some, superb ergonomics, and it reflects, at least gives a nod to the OEM styling for that gun. So takes M&P 45 mags, and it's a banger. So I'm really happy to be getting this one out because it's a massive upgrade to the ergonomics of the original.
Now, I'm a big fan of the M&P line. I really do like the M&P. I carry a shield and everything.
Yep.
I'm also glad to see more guns in 45 specifically, something that isn't a Glock, I guess, or even a Ruger, really. I like M&P stuff. M&Ps are nice.
Dude, they're dope.
I'm just looking at this right now, too. Do they, even for the 45, they have the funny, goofy, mag extensions?
Yes. In fact, that's what I rock, man. So, if you're going to run a 14 round magazine, you got to do the mag extension, right? So, but I for some reason it works. And there's not a lot of options out there for the high capacity 45s. You're going to get into the 14 round realm or whatever. So if it's not, it's either going to be a Glock, it's going to be an SR 45, which we talked about last episode. Or actually, did we talk about that last episode? No, we didn't.
It was the OK Zoomer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the. I think we talked about it when it went into beta. We're going to talk. Yes, that is the OK Zoomer. We're actually going to talk about that at the end of today because it actually released. But whatever. So your options are limited with high capacity 45 and a pistol frame right now. So this is one of probably three that I can think of that are pretty nice. Obviously, Glock's going to be good. The Rugers, I got a soft spot for them, and then the M&P arguably could be termed the best. For the money, for what they are, the trigger, it's really hard to do better. And there's a guy in the beta there's actually 10 millimeter versions of this, and so he runs a 10 millimeter on this frame. I wish I had a 10 millimeter kit because that's exactly what I would do. These are great. If you've got a parts kit lying around, or if you're a connoisseur of the V1, jump in that room and print this frame because I want your feedback. I've got a few people, rocking these and shooting them or whatever, but because of the ergonomic changes and the way that I had to modify the the wall thickness in certain areas, I really need, I'd like to get as much feedback as possible. So I need people to really shoot this and let's make sure that we're not going to develop any cracks or anything. But so far, it's held up great,
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. The ones I really like are the Performance Center triggers. I think the Performance Center triggers are probably my favorite out of all the M&P ones. I'm not sure. I don't think the internals are too different, but you could probably use a Performance Center for this, right?
That's a good question. I am not. I mean, I'm sure that there are aftermarket triggers you can put in there. The stock trigger is really respectable. I mean, I got to be real. Even on the MP9s and whatnot, that's the M&P series. In my opinion, is one of the better triggers out there. I like the M&P trigger. I like the Canic trigger. Glock triggers, man, they're not the best. We kind of got accustomed to the Glocks, but when you compare them to an M&P or to a Canic, I mean, they, in my opinion, they fall short. So I have oh man, what do I have? 5 or 6 fucking M&Ps. and I really appreciate the triggers on all of them. I really think that Smith and Wesson, after some of the abysmal failures in the past with like the SDs and the SWs, like they really stepped up their game with the M&P series and recognized that they really had to do better.
Well, yeah.
So I got no complaints with the stock triggers. I'm sure that the aftermarket performance triggers they're probably butter, you know.
Well, I say that because I know some of the original, like you can get some of the original 2.0s, which I think is what the 45 is, the normal 45. It's got the little curve trigger thing, which is probably, if you're going to get a parts kit on it, that's most likely going to be the one you actually end up getting anyways. But like the newer ones, I think even for the 10 millimeter, I'm looking at their website too. The 10 millimeter one you can get with like the fun blade trigger, and that's like they started putting that one I think in all of their newer ones so far. Like even the newer 9 ones have it. It used to be like the Performance Center one. Like most shields have it now too. So I like that trigger a lot. It's actually fantastic. It is everything I would do for an upgraded Glock trigger, but already like stock, which is really nice. Personally, I'm a huge fan of it too. It's just nice. I like the 45 a lot. I'm guessing the parts kit wise, if I remember correctly too, aren't the rails also integrated in the like parts kit too?
Yep, they are. You don't have to buy anything but a parts kit and a mag, obviously. But yeah, the rails are part of the parts kit. You know, you throw it in the frame and you're good to go. So you know, you don't have to. There's no additional assets that you have to purchase in order to build this gun. You know, just a parts kit and print the frame.
Oh yeah, and that's honestly one of my favorite parts about the shield stuff. They are just really fun. I like the takedown on them too. They're nice. It's similar, I guess, to like I think even like a SIG. It's different from like the Glock one, which going to something different felt nice. I really like the M&P stuff. I actually do want to get a full size one eventually. I really like my shield a lot. For such a small gun, I enjoy shooting it. And I can only imagine what a 40, like the bigger full-size ones would be like. That's probably going to be my next handgun purchase. I feel like if I'm going to get a 45, I should just get a normal 1911 or something else. But for a 45 one, this is probably one of my favorite like choices for sure. And it's nice that I guess, there are more frames for it. I do like the design. You are going to closer to like what the original M&P one looks like, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, that was kind of my goal during this revamp. What I did is I got into CAD and I projected a OEM frame and endeavored to, reform the original design, so that it reflected more of like the OEM vibe or whatever. And a lot of the original ones have the medallion as opposed to the M&P logo, but I really, I wanted to put the M&P logo on there. The medallion it's not as recognizable. If it's small. And so I thought that worked better. And I mean, I don't know. I dig it myself. It's just, ergonomically and aesthetically, it's head and shoulders above the original. The original still works. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's really big in the hand, and it doesn't. I mean, I have big hands anyways, but anybody with like normal size hands or smaller hands is not going to like the. If you have a V1, you know what I'm talking about. I've had people tell me it's like holding a burrito or something. It's not very ergonomic, and so this kind of solves that problem.
Oh yeah, I guess one other thing. The only other question I can imagine is, do you have one for the thumb safety as well?
I don't. My kit did not have a thumb safety, and so. I don't know, man. I think most people have just been, you can pop them off the back. I really don't have plans to do the thumb safety, but I'm sure that once it comes out, like somebody will remix it and put the thumb safety on there. Or if somebody wants to, somehow I get a hold of some parts or something, I can maybe, whip one out, but I don't have a thumb safety to work with. So I just went ahead and, I devved around the parts that I have. No, and honestly, I mean, I don't know. The thumb safety is cool and all, but it's just, it's really unnecessary in my opinion.
As I am in that one minority of, I actually do enjoy the thumb safety. It seems like there are fewer guns that do it now, and M&P is one of them. And I do like their full size one because it kind of feels like a 1911 one actually. That being said, though, I know most people actually don't like the thumb safety and will opt out of it. I am very much the minority for that one. So it's one of those things where like I prefer it, but I can assure you most people actually probably do not care or are more than content without it having one. But
Right.
aside from that, I guess, I think it's fun. I like more MNP stuff. Something that isn't a Glock, I guess, doesn't use Glock mags either, which is kind of nice. At least MNP mags
Yes.
aren't that expensive, really. They are, I mean,
Right.
they're a little bit more than, I'm looking at it right now. A 10 round mag, oh, it actually is about 42 if you get it from MNP. That's not too bad. Let me see what the full size other ones do. They have any, they sell the extension ones. Oh, God, they do sell. I see the goofy 20. Oh, that's a fun little one, little extended base plate thingy. Okay, yeah, those are goofy. But no, yeah, I don't really have much else to say besides I like MNP a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I really been wanting to do. I've been in the game for a minute, and so as I've learned it more and become better at CAD and different things like that, I'm going back to some of my old projects and dressing them up a little bit, which I think is appropriate. So, um, I don't know if I'll return to this one again, but I wanted to take an opportunity to take the V1 and make it the gun that I'm capable of making now. So that's what this is.
Well, with that, I think let's go to the next one. Let's go to the releases.
Yeah, so we've got some cool. Basically, we got three releases that happened in July. The first two, I don't want to necessarily lump them completely together, but they were basically the one release that we decided to split up. Okay, and I'll kind of get into the details with that when we talk about the NFA part. So the first thing that released was the semi by Poly. That dropped right after 4th of July. What this is, there was the original mono poly that dropped maybe a year ago or more. This is like basically the 2.0 expanded version of that, where it's got a ton of different ergonomic and aesthetic improvements, build improvements, simplifications, but it's also expanded. Like this covers every AR from a AR9 to a LR308, and even actually it even covers so it's like the DPMS pattern and the AR308 pattern. So this is and you've got if you have a large format printer, you have complete one piece monolithics, which is like the receiver and the buttstock. But if most people, like even me, with I have larger format printers, I can't print the entire thing. So there's like two piece where it's like the lower and then the stock that you put on it. But it's very reminiscent of your OG AR aesthetics, where it's like, got the A1 looking stock, and then the receiver. There's like three different grip profiles, and plus I think a profile where you can just put your own grip on. So there's a ton of options here. When you look at the release, you'll see inside the release there's like a flow charts to help you identify, what you want to print. There's probably, I mean, I'm not even kidding, man, when I say this, there's probably 50 different options. Like, it's incredible, the amount of versatility that you can achieve in an AR pattern. And I mean, it's all top notch, it's all first class, really done really well, great quality. Outside of the U-Bar X, this is the best thing going for an AR, 3D printed. I would I would challenge you to find me something that you thought was better. I'm still a fan of the U-Bar and the U-Bar X because of the, if you're not going to do an integrated stock, this is like on par with that though. It basically, your buffer tube is part of your stock. You have, the modularity, I guess you could call it, and the different options. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I've already printed a couple of these out and built them, and they're the shit. I just got to tell you, I'm working on a nylon fucking 243 right now. It's going to be dope as hell. So the reason that this semi is different is because, so they're like, in this release, when I tell you it's comprehensive and it was like covered all your bases. So there is also a whole nother section that we released as the NFA by Poly, which so that supports your OEM M16 fun switches. Okay, so all of
Oh,
your OEM third hole bullshit is supported in the NFA release. Do not print that unless you are, you know what you're doing,
a big
because
disclaimer. Yeah, a good disclaimer is
yeah,
follow your local laws, of course.
yes, absolutely. Like, do not. That's why we separated it. We did not want to take a chance of somebody printing the NFA version with the integrated third hole and the integrated support for the M16 fun switches. So select fire control group on accident. So it's broken up into two pieces. So the NFA is something that released maybe a week or 10 days after. And what that does is, as if you don't know this, you can go to any gun bunker, usagunbunker.com, and any number of websites, and you can just order the Select Fire M16 parts and they're not really that expensive. There might be $25, maybe they're $40, and they'll send them to your house, and you can put them, if you're legally you can put them into the NFA printable receivers, and they will work just like an OEM M16. So there is no 308 option for that, because there is not like the full auto 308 never really was a thing. So there is no third hole 308, but everything else there is in that NFA version. Just like the more you know. But that's why I say that these two releases combined really cover the entire landscape of any AR-15, AR-9, AR-10 that you want to build. You're going to find something that's going to work in these two packages.
well, I think this is probably the most comprehensive one. I mean, the only one I could imagine that even had that many differences was probably, or that many different variants of ARs was probably, the Firebolt. But that is, well,
Yeah,
I don't think anyone has been as bold and brave to make the third hole option, which again makes kind of perfect sense that you could just in theory print it. You can
absolutely.
machine it in your normal AR-15 lower if you really wanted to drill the third hole, or I guess now you could just do it. uh,
Yep.
I'm just looking at some of it too. Is just the bufferless option. Now that to me is just interesting. Imagine getting a bufferless AR and still deciding to do the full stock on it. But
Yeah. I mean, this. I don't know. See, there's so much in here. I don't know if there. I want to believe that there's something in there for a, there's something in there for a bufferless carrier. But I will. I mean, you know, I've made a couple of these already in the during the release process and after, and they are really top tier as far as I was a really big fan of the monopoly. The monopoly. I have a couple of those already built out. Like that's a dope platform. This is like the monopoly 2.0, and it is there's nothing wrong with the original, but this has got several improvements, and it's got several improved ergonomics, multiple grip patterns that you can choose from. It's I can't say enough about it. It's probably other than the U-Bar X and the U-Bar 3. This is the apex of printed AR receiver platforms.
yeah, I guess let me see if I remember correctly. The original Monopoly. That was harder
Yeah.
to say than I thought it would be. But the original Monopoly, that one has no. You don't have to put anything special to it, right? It's just pretty much like the takedown pins are not extra reinforced or anything. You can just use it as is.
Yes, you can. You don't have to necessarily like that is one of the improvements with the with this with the bipoly is, and you don't there's a couple of different versions that you can do. Like there's the easy version, and then there's the hard version, which is like the hard version uses key stock in the front, which is tantamount to what you see in the U-Bar 3 and the U-Bar X, where we use the eye bolts. So regardless of the key stock for the front pivot, what it does, it uses compression limiters where the takedown pins go into the frame that secure the upper to the lower. And what it does is the compression limiters, they keep over time from those takedown pins compressing the PLA and creating slop. It's not a huge problem, but it is a very nice benefit, and will make sure that your whatever frame that you end up making is going to last a long time, and you're not going to have any issues with it, right? There's very few things that can go wrong with it with a properly done AR lower, anyways. But one thing that can get you is over time you get PLA compression where those pivot pins go through and secure the upper to the lower because of the forces on them. So the compression limiters solve that. And the harder version, what you do instead of a compression limiter up front is you use like a keystock method that is, if you imagine if you're familiar with the U-bar and you've got those 1/4-inch eye bolts up front, this is something similar where it's a 1/4-inch hole through some square stock that mounts in the front of the receiver. So it's a metal attachment point that makes it where it's going to be very durable and very hard to break.
No, yeah, and the big thing to me too is also it's nice that you also have AR308, and I guess someone had an original AR10 like DPMS pattern that they could decide to use for that.
So you never see that, right? Like everything is LR308, like all the Hoffman stuff and everything that's out there. Even the what is it? I've made one of those, the big U bar or the B, something like that, like the BBU bar or some shit. That's like nobody. It's very rare to find one that's straight up old school like a Armalite pattern, but he's got one in here, so somebody had to have had one. Yeah, I was chuckling at that. You never see that these days.
Well, it's because no one actually really has an AR10 anymore. Besides, they just misnomer it as an AR308.
Yeah, it's very rare, and you're absolutely right. That is a huge thing. When I started building AR10s, to know the difference between like it's really not an AR10, it's an LR308, right? There's or it's the DPMS pattern. It's not the Armalite pattern. So there's just, I don't see any Armalite patterns out there hardly ever. It's very rare.
Yeah, I mean, another thing too is, if I remember correctly, the bipoly though, that's the one that's the 2-piece one. That's probably going to be, in all honesty, the one that everyone makes, because unless you still have an old AR, or not, a CR10 like Creality printer laying around, or like another really big form like factor one, I don't even think the newer Bamboo like XL versions they have can print these.
No, I have one, and it will not print the monolithic STL. It's still too big, and so you have to. 99% of everybody out there is going to have to print the 2-piece version. But I got to tell you, the 2-piece version's dope. The the original used what is it, a 4mm rod, and you kind of glued it in or whatever. This uses the same rod, but it has a captured nut and a torque bolt that you use from the inside the buttstock, and it is, I mean, it's crazy solid, man. They've got some extra geometry that net where like the lower nest into the lower nest into the stock, and from everything that I've seen so far, I mean, it's super, like, really robust, more even than the original.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what printers. Maybe if only we hadn't used someone that had a Prusa XL. Maybe that one can do it too. I don't have one of those. Yeah. That one looks a little bigger.
It's not many, guys. It's not many. Yeah. You got to have something kind of rare. If you have, I got to tell you, it's like I now that I have seen this, it's like it's been catching my eye. I keep telling myself I don't need to. I've been wanting a large format printer for a while, but I keep telling myself, don't do it. The what is it? Queedy has got a printer called the Orange Giga, and it's a meter square build plate or build volume.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's like $3,000 or maybe $2,500, and so that's I've really been I keep looking at it, telling myself I don't need it, but something like that, maybe you could absolutely pull this off. But anything normal, no way.
Yeah, the mild tangent with that is I just remember a lot of people that had the larger form printers always had issues with them. Like the CR10s would
Especially the
never.
CR10s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody I know with the CR10 is just a fucking, they hate it and it's a fail. Like, I don't know if I know one single person with a CR10 that has anything good to say about it, you know? I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, they did have good things to say about it when it like first came out, and like that was kind of like the more reliable one at the time. But that's not. They're just not as fun to use. Like same thing with or was it the 5 Plus as well? The 5 Plus like used different firmware from the original 5, which made it even more annoying to use. Like big
Yeah.
form factor printers. There's a reason why most of them kind of stopped, because I think enough people kind of had enough of them. But
Right.
who knows? Maybe as time progresses and with the way these companies are going for a little bit bigger, maybe we might see them like finally appear at their best form. But who knows? I think most people are going to go for this or buy poly anyways. But I'm glad to know they got
Yeah.
an update. For those who want to be that bold, they are wonderful SOTs, of course, are guys who are following their local laws. I'm curious to see how they handle with the 3 position ones, because if I remember correctly, too, you can just technically buy them to your house. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to tell you to do that, because God knows that there's some other legalese reasoning behind it. But yeah, you can like just
Yeah,
send it over.
yeah, I don't think it's illegal for you to buy them and have them. I think it's illegal for you to build it or put it in a gun.
I
Like, you
would
can
imagine
have
so.
you can have those parts like just kind of kicking around like in a drawer somewhere, and that's fine. But like, if you go installing it in a lower, and you're not licensed or the Crown hasn't given you permission, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. So, prepare accordingly, I will say.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm not gonna tell you it's just legal to have, because like God knows that there is like some extra thing to it that's gonna like change, that just changes it enough, and I am not the person to ask what that is. So I'm just gonna say, yeah, follow your local laws and plan accordingly, whatever you do. But with that, this is I guess this is probably the biggest comprehensive AR
It is.
release in a long time, actually. So
Yeah,
that's just
it
nice.
is.
I'm sure a lot of people are
But,
going to print this.
but between this and the U bar 3, U bar X, I mean, this is like, we have basically, we've planed, or we've achieved AR printed AR-15 Zen in the lower receiver stock area. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to show me something now that would did better than those two. Like I say, I am partial to the U bar from the U bolt perspective in the buffer tube. However, this is still, I would say this is just as good. It's just got a different vibe. And, if you don't want to run a typical collapsible stock or something, or a pistol brace or whatever, and you want that classic, like, A1, A2 vibe, this is what you want to do, is to get the bipoly. So I've built a bunch of both. So, the only advantage I'd say the U-Bar 3 has is that it's probably technically a little stronger in the buffer tube because of the U-bolt, but and it takes less filament and it's a little bit easier to build. Besides that, I mean, I'm just going to be real. It doesn't have the vibe that the bipoly does. If you want a classic looking AR, it's dope as shit. That looks like it's, like the one that I am working on now. I printed it out of carbon fiber nylon, and the shit looks injected molded. I mean, it's killer. Um, that's, there is no upgrade to that. The bipoly is gonna be the top choice.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking at the next one, so we could go to that one too.
Yeah.
But I'll let you introduce the next one as well, because I'm sure you have a lot to say, and I know I want to say something too.
Yeah. So, okay, the other release that we have in July was the OK Zoomer. So the OK Zoomer, the OK Zoomer V2. So this is the V2 of the OK Zoomer. The OK Zoomer is a Ruger SR45 that takes Glock 21 mags. It's just another one of my older projects that I wanted to revamp. So one of the things that I've gotten, I don't know if I'm going to, like, I don't want to toot my own horn and say I've gotten good at it, but one thing I've kind of figured out how to do is to make negatives of internal spaces for different platforms. And so I made a cut tool, which, if you know anything about CAD, that's like a solid that represents the empty negative space inside of the gun frame for the original OK Zoomer. And I took that cut tool, and what I did is I took so Unseen Killer had a frame called the Bishop that was a Glock 21 frame, and I really liked it. But I don't, it didn't really appeal to me as a Glock frame, but I like the externals and the ergos, and so I filled it in, and then I used my OK Zoomer cut tool to cut it back out for the SR45. And it took a little bit of massaging, afterwards, like a little bit of tweaking, but like it works great and it's beautiful. And so, anyways, it's double stack 45. See, one of the only other options, besides that actual Glock, or like what we talked about earlier with the MMP 45, to get a high capacity 45 out there. The Striker fired. They don't make them anymore, but they're dope as shit. They're really cool guns. They got really smooth action. You have to buy a rear rail from Riptide, but the SR rails are relatively cheap. They're like $20, so it's not going to set you back a lot of money. Plus, it takes clock mags, so it's pretty universal. And you'd be hard pressed to come up with another double stack 45. I mean, I get these. The kits are a little bit more expensive now because there's some better options out there, but these kits are maybe they're $100-$150, so you could get a badass double stack 45 for, maybe $150, $200 all in. So it's hard to beat.
I'm just taking a look right now, and I see something that is just caught my eye that I just noticed. Did you make a 1911 style grip for this thing?
So I did on the V1. The V1 has a 1911 grip modules that go onto the sides of the frame. That I did something similar with that with the more Dakka too, but it wasn't as 1911-ish. It was a little bit of a departure. But I think the original Zoomer is where I thought it would be funny to take, I made a version that basically takes 1911 grips, and you can screw them into the frame. This does not have that because, while that was humorous and meme worthy, this frame doesn't really need that, and it has like all the appropriate ergos, and it feels good the way it is. So I didn't want to take the extra step of producing the grip module. Somebody out there in the remix community, though, I'm sure it would be very easy to do. I want to say too, I put several stippled options in this release as well. So there's several different patterns depending on what you want to do. One I put in there that I really like is like a floral, like boogaloo Hawaiian shirt pattern. So you guys that got the multicolor bamboos, would be a freaking dope frame to turn into like a Hawaiian shirt, and give the colors and the vegetation some color, or it's not the colors, the flowers and the vegetation some color. So, anyways,
I just saw that on the little release there on the top. I was like, man, I can't believe I missed that the first time. I was like, that's humorous.
That's the V. So yeah, that up there at the top where the catalog logo is, that's the V1. And then down below it, that's the V2. And so that was one of the funny things that the humorous things that I did with the V1 is that frame again too. It was not the most ergonomic, and it was really thick and big in the hand. And I thought, and it worked great. It was I thought out of all of the ones that I've done grip modules for, that was like probably one of the better ones. But yeah, I straight up put 1911 grips on it, and that was funny. So that way you could print them in a different color, do something fancy with them. Laughs has done a ton of grips for the V1, I believe, that you can actually download and print. So maybe there's an opportunity to transfer that over to the V2, but I like the V2 kind of the way it is. So I did not, and I wasn't trying to turn this into a year-long project either. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to phone it in, but it was something that it was worked for me. I wanted to get it out to the community, and it was a more ergonomic option, if you want to call it that.
I guess, my only last question would be, prefer to the Dakka versus the Zoomer. Which one do you prefer more?
Man, that's a good question, man. That is a good question. Fuck. They're both like they're both so. I mean, I love. They're both kind of my babies, and I love them. It's like asking me like, who's your favorite child? You know what I mean?
But you, of
I
course,
don't
have
know.
one. Secretly, you have one, though.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, the M&P is a more cultured gun. The Ruger though is just like got more bravado, or it's more gusto. Like that's a the M&P is slimmer. It hits harder in the recoil department because it's not as much mass. The Ruger is like way heavier and way chunkier, so it doesn't have as much muzzle rise. And I mean, both of them fucking eat anything really. But I will tell you this: the Ruger, because it's a little bit wider and takes a Glock mag, like you can have a 14 round mag and not have it stick 2 inches below the fucking mag well. So I mean, it's hard for me to say which one is the best. If I had to really choose to carry one, I would probably pick the Ruger, just because the Ruger. I mean, my experience is they're bulletproof. You can't fuck them up. Now I have bigger hands, so that the Ruger doesn't feel unnatural to me. But if you have medium-sized hands, you may not like the way the Ruger feels, because it's a Glock mag, and that Glock 45 mag is no joke. Like, you're not putting in anything that's going to be normal sized, right? Like, it's going to have to be a really big mag well. So if I guess it kind of depends on what your preference is. There's a big difference between the two in the way in the hand. If it was up to me, though, I guess if I was going to be forced to pick one or the other, I would pick the Ruger. Is what I would do.
Okay, so you like the Ruger one more. I can see, one of them has. I feel like there's a little love with one of them.
I really like them both, because they're both like dope. And honestly, the M&P 45 it's really impressed me. Like, it's one of the best. Like, in the modern era, it's like it's so much it's so much better than a Glock. I can't even express how I feel about the M&P series like properly. Like, it is. We get so sidetracked on like what everybody, the popular, hey, just get a Glock or whatever. And, M&Ps are slept on, man. Like, they are awesome. The trigger is the shit, and they shoot really, really well. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's one of these things where I was guilty of this as well. You get sidetracked on thinking, the Glock platform is the top of the pile, and nothing can be further from the truth. I mean, it's definitely appeals to the masses. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. If you got a Glock, I'm not going to shit on you, but pick up an M&P and shoot it, and pick up a Canic and shoot it, and then tell me what you think about your Glock trigger. Please.
Oh no, yeah. I guess I can transition into the conclusion as well, because I think that's the last one, right?
Yep, that is.
Yeah, I will say this. I am one of those people that once you get to shoot an M&P, like, it definitely changes your perspective on a lot of things. Now, I will say the Glock performance trigger is actually very good, to the point where you wonder why Glock doesn't do it stock just from the factory, I guess. But like, compared to your typical Glock trigger, oh my goodness, yeah, just standard M&P is shockingly really good, especially if you can get the ones with the blade style trigger, like what you find in most modern shields right now. They are great. Right. They are fantastic. It is one of my favorite firearms to definitely have. I enjoy it more than SIG. I enjoy it more than Canic. Is a mixed bag for me, I will say. I feel like I've had issues with Canics before where they jam up on me. I haven't had any issues with the M&P. No, well, maybe not me. Maybe it's because I go to competitions, and every time I see someone run a Canic, that always has like an issue with it. Of like, the rival one, I know would have issues, and then my friend's Met 9, Meta, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
See, I fuck with TP9s. TP9, SA, TP9 SF, SFX. Those are like, I was like, that's, that was one of my betas, and shit, I have a lot of them. And I just won another one yesterday. I have no issues with them at all. They can be like, if you're not running a Canic mag or a Canic for, like I have what's the word? I've apportioned Beretta mags to work in Canics, and they work great. But if you don't, you have to kind of tune the feed lips a little bit to achieve the proper angle. They can come back to bite you. But anything normal is just they run. I've never had a problem with them jamming myself. I those Meta or whatever. I think that's one of those compacts, isn't it?
Yes, it's their compact one. It
Yeah,
had like I forgot what makes it special. Like it's like an in between like a shield and like the compact, or like, a Glock 43 versus whatever the thick boy one is.
yeah,
It's like it is on paper. It's a really good gun. I've just whenever I shot with my friend, either I like to think I have a decent grip on it. It is pretty snappy, but like I would still jam on me. And I think there was like
yeah,
stories of a recall too, with that thing having like some out of batteries or some stuff. I forget, but like it's not the
yeah.
best. It's not the best in my opinion.
No, I think I would probably agree with you on that. I had a guy that I worked with shortly after the main Canic released that wanted a frame for his subcompact, and so he mailed me his parts kit, and I used his parts kit to dev basically a subcompact frame. It's on my Odyssey, and then I mailed his parts kit back to him. I was not a huge fan. I mean, that kit was pretty scuffed too. I will say that. Like, that kit was beat to shit, and so it was not. It was a little hard to work with at times because of how rough it was. But I mean, I got it running. The one thing that's different about those metas, and there's another version of subcompact, but the slide release is actually a pin that goes all the way through the frame, and then it's their ambidextrous or whatever you want to say, where it has the other side that attaches to the ejection side part of the pin, and they're funky, man. I mean, I got to tell you, it's that was one of the harder things to figure out and get it working. The locking block is shorter. Some of the internals are a little bit like they compressed everything to fit it in that smaller frame. It works, but it's nowhere near as nice as full size. So if you're going to run a comp with a Canic and you're not running like SF or an SFX, like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're running a comp with a Meta or subcompact, like, that's crazy.
Mine was just a normal stock Met, and I just like it. It's everything that I think I want until I shot him. Like, yeah, okay. Like, it does even come with a little like goofy, like really really flimsy holster, which I thought was like neat, I guess. But I was like, yeah, okay. Like,
That's funny.
that's cool, I guess. On paper, this sounds even nicer, I guess. Like, this is perfect for YouTube reviews, I bet. But like, yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I guess another thing too we could probably mention, these fun little conclusion, is I'm looking forward to also seeing how the new printers go. I think Bamboo just released their new they're like teasing their big new announcement. I think it's their is it like their
Yeah.
there's the X1 carbon, then they made this bigger one that's heated,
Okay.
and then
Yes. So that it was the next thing that happened after that X1C was you had what's called the H2D. The H2D has been out for a minute, and then there's a new AMS that goes along with it, which is great because the original AMS is kind of shitty.
it was the first at its job, so kink's done.
Yeah, I have both an X1C and an AMS 1.0, and I also have an H2D with an AMS 2.0, and the AMS 2.0 is a huge upgrade. After that, now that because see, the H2D has got two hot ends in it, and so good, bad, or in between, you can't run. You have to have two different spools or two different AMSs in each hot end. So, like, the two hot ends will not feed out of the same AMS, and so what they did now, I guess it was today or yesterday or something, is they now have an H2D with just one head, and you can get it for like $1,500, which is a big discount. I mean, that's what an X1C used to cost. So you can get an H2D with a AMS 2.0 with one hot end for $1,500. And then, so that dropped and everybody was like, holy shit, and that's really not a bad deal for what it is. And then after that, they showcased a teaser of something they're working on, which I find really cool. Is it's a like a tool bank of hot ends, so that you don't have to purge, and each hot end is mapped to a color. So what happens is, instead of doing a purge tower, it goes over to the rack and it unloads the one hot end and then reloads the hot end for the color that you want to use, while it's backing the filament out and reloading the filament that is assigned to that hot end. So, in other words, you no longer have to do purges, and it's going to be a huge time saver. And I think if they can pull it off and it's not a shit show and it really works, that's going to be incredible.
Well, it's not even just that. It's also, you don't have to do a purge tower anymore, which means you can save a lot more filament as well, from what I remember.
Yes, absolutely.
That
absolutely
should be huge, because when you do filament swaps, you do end up kind of using a lot more filament than you would normally. And that's
absolutely.
I think I think they made their XL one have something similar to that, and then shockingly out of nowhere, Prusa decided to kind of tease their own looking, not, I wouldn't say bamboo style printer, but it's got glass on it. It actually looks like something that is probably going to be worthwhile. They finally released something that I would consider actual competition. If it's about the same price as a bamboo, because the new ones are a little more expensive. If they can keep that, in that case, I'm that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, definitely has a good time.
What's cool too is that the AMS 2.0 will also work with the OG X1 Carbon. So I imagine the X1 Carbons are going to go in no time they're going to be fucking $600-700. So if they're not already, so you'd be able to get like the OG X1 Carbon with an AMS 2.0. And at a reasonable deal. I mean, it's still going to cost. It's going to be way more expensive than an Ender or a bed slinger. However, if you can swing it, you will not regret spending the money. I'm just going to tell you, if you can swing it, you will not regret spending the money.
Oh yeah.
If you can't swing it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I was on the fence for a long time. I got to tell you, you get over something being expensive. You do not get over something being a piece of shit. So I can't stress that more.
I would say patience is a virtue. Long gone are the days where we would put pieces of paper and then turn dials. That. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are still people to this day still running their original Ender 3s. I have an Ender 5S myself that I've been using more or less. That is... Seeing a bamboo just kind of do all the maintenance on its own is just, it's just nice. And it's just one of those things where you can kind of understand it, of wow, this is actually really pleasant to use. Having used a friend's bamboo, I'm wow, I actually do enjoy this more.
One thing that's cool about all the new 2.0 bamboos, like the H2D and beyond, is the nozzles they come out with a clip. So there's a little retainer clip that you flip open, and the nozzle just pops out, and you can swap You can swap the hot end. It's not even just a nozzle; it's the whole hot end, and it's heating that up through induction. So swapping a nozzle or whatever, you don't even have to get your tools out. You don't have to get the Allen wrenches out or anything. You just pop the cover off with your hands. You flip the bracket or the little clip open. It's got a magnet on it that is what's holding it on the front of the tool head, and you just pull it off and you throw the new one on. You close the clip, put the cover on with your hands, and you're back in business. So I gotta say, I totally nuked my nozzles the other day fighting with some shitty nylon, and I was very impressed at the ease in which I was able to swap nozzles out on it. It was holy shit. Not that the X1C is that bad, because it's not that bad if you've ever worked on an Ender or had to go through that pain. But this is it's the whole thing is just a whole level up, the H2D and what I would call the Bamboo 2.0 stuff that's coming out now.
And yeah, that's, I think, I am just looking forward to seeing the price drops on the Bamboo X1. Because also, I think, too, for all those that are super paranoid about everything with, cloud printing, I think you can still just use, an SD card and, even a USB stick to print with that one still. Which is...
Absolutely.
kind of nice, I guess. Hopefully that they don't remove that. If they remove that, then I'll be a little bit upset. But I would say it's a good time to upgrade for sure.
Yeah, and they have. I mean, listen, I'm not. Nothing's going to be foolproof, but they do have you can put it in LAN only mode, and where you don't, you turn the Wi-Fi off. And I'm not saying that this stuff can't be circumvented in some way, but I for I think that the benefits outweigh the risks in this particular scenario, at least in my situation. I'm not, I'm not, printing a lot of. Actually, I'm not printing anything that is, illegal where I live, and so I don't give a shit if Bamboo is collecting covert data on me. But there are ways of going about it where you don't have to be as it doesn't have to be online. It doesn't have to talk to the cloud. You can run it through SD cards. Whatever you want to do. You can put it behind a firewall, never let it out. And it's it'll never know the difference.
And I'm sure people always find a way to do things. Jailbreaking can also be another thing that people might get in down to.
Yeah.
But
I would love to do that with my old X1C. I really that needs to be kind of our next as a community. We need to figure out ways of like flashing the firmware on these Bamboos like the way we used to flash Marlin on our Enders. That's really what I want to see is we need to come up with a workflow that accomplishes that. No question.
Oh, you're bringing back memories of flashing custom Marlin. Oh, goodness
Hell
gracious.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That is bringing back wonderful memories for sure. I mean,
hell yeah. Hey, man, I've bricked a bunch of printers, and I've unbricked a bunch of printers. Let's put it that way. I know all about that shit. There's got to be a way to get in there and do it, man. I just, we need some smart guys to come in and help us out. But, that would be Kino, man. We just need to get the X1C where you can jailbreak it and like run some like open source Linux fucking op on it or something, man. It'd be the shit. Think about like what you were able to do with like customized firmware on an Ender, and then imagine what you could do with being able to get in and customize the firmware on an X1C. I would love to just tinker with that. That'd be brilliant.
Oh, I bet it would be. I'm curious because it's also got way more processing power too than your typical like 8-bit board or like 30. But
yes,
I guess we can leave it there. But the future's looking bright for sure, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys all next month too.
Beautiful, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, I'll see you guys soon.